Shabbat Shalom. There are special people having a birthday today. Of course, we could say that about every day on the calendar. Today is Paul Brader's birthday, 75 years old. Young, really. Who would imagine, knowing Paul? It is my beloved brother-in-law's birthday, Matt. Him too, looking fantastic. But it is also a special birthday for a member of our Jewish family who at times has played the role of a 2,000-year-old man. Well, Mel Brooks is not 2,000, but today he turns 99 years young. Amazing. You may be a Mel Brooks fan or not, but there is no doubt that he has been one of the most prominent comic voices of all of our lifetimes. There are families that regularly quote from Young Frankenstein, Blazing Saddles, The Producers. I've talked about The Producers before in our circle. That's our family's most favorite. I even said not that long ago that I knew lines from The Producers so well from hearing my dad especially say them, that by the time I actually finally saw the movie, I was young enough to still sort of be confused. I thought the movie was quoting my dad. Mel Brooks's patter, jokes, silly physicality, and as my mother often describes him, the humor of a junior high school boy who's looking to get in a lot of trouble, has been a part of our lives from the very beginning. You may have a favorite Mel Brooks movie, and if you do, I'd love to know what it is. He's made quite a few. So many of them didn't do very well at the box office and certainly with critics, but they are beloved favorites for so many. But Mel's humor comes from a life lived not always easily. So I want to thank the reporting of Talia Zaks in the forward, who reminded me that it was Mel Brooks's birthday today, and just share a little bit about the journey of this individual and a little bit of the wisdom of the 2,000-year-old man. Because I think with humor, Mel and Carl Reiner, of blessed memory, share some very poignant pieces of advice. It's not always helpful, but a lot of it is, for how to be in this particular moment in human history. Mel certainly delving into the history of the world with multiple parts, taking a long look at the ridiculous, funny, and very often sad tale of human beings. Mel Brooks was born Melvin James Kaminsky, June 28, 1926, born on a tenement kitchen table in Brooklyn. His parents were Kate Brookman and Max Kaminsky. His father's family were German Jews from Danzig, and his mother was a Ukrainian Jewish immigrant from Kyiv. Mel had three older brothers, Irving, Lenny, and Bernie. Imagine Mel as the youngest of four boys. Their father died of tuberculosis at the age of 34 when Mel was just 2 years old. And he said of his father's death, "There's an outrage there. I may be angry at God or at the world for that. And I know a lot of my comedy is based on anger and hostility. Growing up in Williamsburg, I learned to clothe it in comedy, to spare myself problems, like a punch in the face." Probably doesn't come as a surprise that Mel was a small, sickly boy who was often bullied and teased by his classmates because of his size. At the age of 9, he saw Anything Goes with Ethel Merman at the Alvin Theater. And after the show, he told his uncle he was not going to work in the garment district like everyone else in the family, but instead he was going to go into show business. He was already entertaining at the age of 14 up at the Butler Lodge, a second-rate Borscht Belt hotel. He was a poolside tumbler, it was called, an entertainer. There he met 18-year-old Sid Caesar. He told the story that one day he stood at the edge of a diving board wearing a derby, a large alpaca overcoat with 2 suitcases full of rocks, and announced to everyone, "Business is terrible. I can't go on," before jumping fully clothed into the pool. He learned to play the drums. He was making money as a musician when he was 14. He changed his name to Brooks after being confused with trumpeter Max Kaminsky, taking from his mother's maiden name, Brookman. He graduated high school from Eastern District High in Williamsburg in January 1944. He intended to go to college to study psychology. But of course, in 1944, young men were joining the Army. He was recruited to take the Army General Classification Test. He did very well. When he turned 18, he officially joined the Army at Fort Dix, New Jersey. He served in the war. In World War II, he participated in the Battle of the Bulge and was a participant in World War II, helping us bring the freedoms that we have enjoyed ever since. You don't think of Mel Brooks as an Army veteran. Some of you may have known that, but I just had never crossed my mind to think about it. What he said of some of his experience in Germany and in fighting at the end of the war, he said, "Along the roadside, you'd see bodies wrapped in mattress covers stacked in a ditch. Those would be Americans. I thought, that could be me. So what did I do? I sang. I sang all the time because I didn't want to think about death." Mel Brooks was tasked with landmine location. Defusing the bombs was done by a specialist, but nonetheless, he was part of the battalion that was responsible for clearing booby-trapped buildings and defusing landmines as the Allies advanced into Nazi Germany. He said that when he heard Germans singing over loudspeakers, he would respond by singing into a bullhorn Al Jolson's hit, "Toot toot tootsie, goodbye, toot toot tootsie, don't cry." Can you imagine Mel Brooks singing "Toot toot tootsie" into a bullhorn to drown out the singing of Nazi soldiers? It's extraordinary. Story is told that he spent time in the stockade after taking an anti-Semitic heckler's helmet off and smashing him in the head with his mess kit. He was part of building bridges at the end of the war. In 1945, his unit conducted its last reconnaissance mission in the Harz Mountains. At the end of the war, Mel joined the Special Services as a comic, touring Army bases. He was made an acting corporal, and in June 1946, he was honorably discharged from the United States Army. I wanted to share a couple of those stories because it's so easy to look at a comedian and turn them away as being frivolous or light or sometimes even beyond irreverent and even inappropriate. But learning about Mel Brooks's early losses and the courage that he showed during the war gives his comedy a whole new flavor, at least to me. And it's not so often that we celebrate someone while they're still with us, but because he very much is, and is working even on projects that have yet to come out. Working on a project called Very Young Frankenstein, and even, believe it or not, on Spaceballs 2, which is supposed to be released in 2027, when, God willing, Mel will be 101. This irrepressible person who has never stopped creating, never stopped trying to make people laugh, and has never stopped singing. If you haven't seen Young Frankenstein, the musical, prepare to smile till your face hurts. Definitely go see it. If you haven't seen the Producers musical, go see it. And there has been talk over many, many years about making a Blazing Saddles musical, although we have yet to see it. When he and Carl Reiner started improvising their very famous, charmingly dated 2,000-year-old man sketches, they would just do them at private homes, and by the time they cracked up enough people, including and especially Steve Allen, They turned that into a roving routine and to a very charming and silly animated special that some of you may have seen when it was new in 1975. In that delightful sketch, Mel plays a 2,000-year-old man who seems to have been old even 2,000 years ago. He says, among other things, he has been married hundreds of times. He has 42,000 children, and none of them ever come to visit. He's asked about people he knew along the way. He says he knew Jesus, who was a fine young man, but would always come into the store and never buy anything. About irreverent. That he knew Shakespeare, who he declares was a very terrible writer. You couldn't read a word he said. He had terrible penmanship. Mel claimed to have been, or the 2,000-year-old man claimed to have been an investor in the unknown play that was never produced, or was produced but only played to 3 audiences, called, according to this very old man, Queen Alexandra and Murray, during which Queen Alexandra says things like, "What ho!" and lots of Shakespearean silliness, only to be met by Murray, who says to her, "What are you talking about? You're waking the whole castle." He claimed to have been in the Trojan horse, and I said, "Whoa, what was that like?" He said, "Boy, could I have used a 6-pack of fresh air," and all kinds of just general absurdities. He is asked what his advice for life is. And did he have any regrets? He says he, of course, regretted the chance to switch his business from making Jewish stars to making crosses, because that would have been much easier, and clearly they were a big seller. It's ridiculous. It's delightful. It's vintage Mel Brooks and Carl Reiner. And when he reflects on his 2,000 years, he says, this is some of his advice. Keep a smile on your face. Never run for a bus. Stay out of small Italian cars. And eat a nectarine every day. It's ridiculous, but it's adorable. Mel Brooks, who is obviously a secular Jew, nonetheless celebrates his people by saying, "I feel close to the Jewish people because I have a relationship with them. I have so much pride in them. Our tribe has survived so many misfortunes, has been so brave, and contributed to so much knowledge to the world." I like that he uses pride, particularly this month when we celebrate our LGBTQ plus brothers and sisters, to be able to say, "I'm proud of being a Jew," not just despite everything, but because of everything. I love that Mel said to Terry Gross in 2021, "I love being a Jew, and I especially love Jewish humor." The ability to laugh and to sing in the face of so much fear. The 2,000-year-old man says that's how most things happened. Singing, dancing, marriage, all because of fear. Fear of our enemies, fear of wild animals. Again, it's ridiculous, but he taps into something I think very profound. We respond to the world often because we need to survive, and the Jewish people has survived in no small part because of its humor. So on this day, June 28th, I want to wish Mel Brooks, Melvin James Kaminsky, a very happy birthday. Thank you for the laughs, Mel, and keep them coming to 120. Shabbat Shalom. And eat a nectarine every day.